Hello friends, did you know I have a Discord server? It's a good place to check out if you end up enjoying this video. Liking and subscribing is also cool, even though YouTube made likes and dislikes pretty much meaningless from a user standpoint. Anyway, hope you enjoy the video. This is Riftbreaker, my newest obsession and selected time waster. My name is Uncle Brian, now let me tell you about Riftbreaker. So, it's like a tower defense, horde survival, base building, expansion, something. Okay, let's just read what it calls itself on Steam. The Riftbreaker TM is a base building survival game with action RPG elements. You are an elite scientist commando inside an advanced mecha suit capable of dimensional rift travel. Hack and slash countless enemies, build up your base, collect samples and research new inventions to survive. So what's that like? Well, you land on an unfamiliar planet called Galatea and learn to exploit its resources and expand your factory. But you're in this awesome mech, and that's what sold me on this game. I can fight aliens in a badass mech and shoot them with a minigun and flamethrower at the same time. You're setting up this planet for human colonization. The scientist you play cares about the creatures that already live on this planet, but the people she works for have the attitude of, I don't really care, kill them all or whatever, just get the job done. So you land and set up an HQ, and then learn that the life on this planet really does not like your buildings. Maybe it's the electricity, but I personally think you're just messing up their feng shui. The base building. First things first, you need resources. Carbonium and iron are the most common ones. If you want resources, you just make a mine on top of it. Okay, cool, but mines need electricity, so what's on offer? Solar and wind power are your easy renewable energy, where you don't have to do anything for and you can use it anywhere. You're gonna be killing a lot of aliens and cutting down a lot of plants, and luckily you can convert both things into electricity. And yeah, by the way, that's real. You can turn meat into electricity. I didn't know that. They basically capture the methane of rotting food and use that to produce electricity. Cool. Geothermal vents provide power, nuclear power, a zero-emission clean energy source. This means it won't cause global warming. Unfortunately, I need the uranium for other things, so I never use it. There are lots of liquids on this planet, and you can use some of them to make electricity, like the magma and gas power plant. Or use water to make a machine that grows plants and then harvest the plants to use in the plant biomass electricity thing. Fusion power plants fuse electricity into existing or something. Having enough resources and electricity is what you worry about for most of the game. There are carbonium and iron synthesizers, so it's unlikely that you would ever completely run out. You can also get resources out of plants by having cultivators and harvesters. You need water though, which can sometimes be annoying to come by, but you get rarer resources that way, and with cultivators you can get every single resource anywhere. So you just make them in a biome where you have enough water. You're trying to make sure your HQ or outpost doesn't get destroyed, so base building and horde tower defense are your keywords here. You build the base to make sure it can hold its own against the horde. The mech, of course, helps to fight the horde, but I want to focus on the buildings right now. So you've got an HQ, the next step is a wall to keep the unskilled labor out. I will build a great wall and the Galateans will pay for it. You need guns for the wall to make sure they don't tear it down, and you have many to choose from. The basic sentinel tower, the flamethrower tower, a rocket launcher tower, laser tower, and this one that shoots mini nukes. Some might say it's a little extreme for landscaping, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. There are more towers and it's a good diversity, and that diversity is needed because of the different alien species. Some will be resistant to bullets, some resistant to explosions, etc. If you only build one type of tower, you're gonna have a bad time. Guns also need ammo. Yeah, I learned that the hard way. That was a moment of panic, so make a lot of ammo factories so that doesn't happen to you. You can also put nicer floors down, and sometimes you will need to put floors down because the ground isn't stable or something like that. You can also decorate a little with lamps or statues. You can put a portal down to quickly jump between parts of a map. This helps a lot if you have a huge base. You also have to think about storage. It's split into solid materials, ammo and liquids. You also have a radar so you can see when you're about to have a visit. Buildings can be upgraded to level 3 and you're gonna need to do that later on when you start getting massive attacks. The only thing you kinda need to worry about besides the attacks is running out of space. But expanding your base is so quick and easy, it's really not something you need to worry about. The building is simple, smooth, intuitive and just very good. I got the hang of it very quickly. You will quickly be able to plop down a new functional base in a minute or less. You'll become one of those Fortnite riddle-in kids that just makes the Eiffel Tower in 15 seconds. It is incredibly satisfying to watch the defense you created completely decimate the attacking enemies. Okay, now it's time for the mech and the planet you're on. You're on a hostile planet where everything hates you. That's pretty much real life, so you can relate. At least in Riftbreaker, you have a mech to defend yourself. The mech is customizable and comes with a variety of weapons and a movement ability, a dash, a dodge roll or a jump. You can equip a weapon to each hand. You start out with a sword and the mech version of an assault rifle. Obviously as the game goes on you unlock more weapons and better versions of them. My favorite is the minigun. Dual wielding the minigun and something like the flamethrower or laser and melting through everything is very fun. You can also equip explosive weapons in each hand like the nuclear launcher and the swarm missiles.
Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Later in the game, I really didn't find a reason to be using a melee weapon. There's nothing the melee weapons do that can't be done better with a ranged weapon, and I find the ranged weapons to be more fun. You also have some passive abilities, and that's basically just extra armor or movement speed, stuff like that. Then you have quickbar abilities, and that's stuff like a heal, grenades, and a panic button explosion. Okay, that's the basics of it down. Let's talk about the planet before we get into the advanced stuff. You start out in the forest, and biomes offer different things, like the forest has 100% wind and solar power, and obviously lots of plants. Also sludge and mud as your liquids. The enemies in the forest are also basic. They don't do anything special, but they still come in different shapes and sizes, and with differing resistances. They kinda remind me of the Zerg in StarCraft, except the Rockmen and the Mud People, those are just weird. The forest only offers you carbonium and iron, so you have to teleport to the planet's other biomes. This usually involves a scouting mission and then like a sample gathering mission. And then finally, a mission where you can make an outpost. A permanent base in the biome. For some of the biomes you need to research some protection for your mech. I mean, you don't need to, but boiling alive inside my mech doesn't sound appealing to me, so I'm gonna research that. The magma biome, solar and wind 50% and geothermal 200%. The biome offers you titanium and allows you to use the magma power station. The special thing the enemies do here is they are fire themed. Yeah, they do fire stuff. Obviously, using the flamethrower in the magma biome is a waste of resources. My magma biome was pretty covered in magma pools, so building a defense for my base required a new approach to kinda get around the liquid stuff. It revolved more around strategic placement of towers and walls instead of just making a box. The heat in the magma zone also requires a special building that cools everything down and allows you to build there. This is the most unique zone because of how I had to change what I usually do. The acidic plains, solar 100% and wind 50%. Lots of acid pools, acidy enemies and palladium. There are also these exploding acid bulbs that will just grow and grow, so you need to put special floors down to make them stop growing. This is a good place to use gas power plants. Then the radioactive desert, solar to 100% and wind 25%. This is where you get uranium. The ground is unstable in some places, so you need to use special flooring to fix that. The enemies here, well, I don't think there's much special about them, they're just creepy, like spidery. There's also big radiation crystals. Okay, now we've covered the biome, so why explore? Well, to see where resources are, and you have like a mineral detector thing, which you can get stuff with, and killing enemies and cutting down plants can get you this research pickup thing. You also have a scanner, which is more consistent in getting you a research thing. It's usually like, scan this plant 10 times to unlock new research. And of course, that's how you unlock new plants for the cultivator. Research is how you get new, better stuff, and you can make multiple research stations so that the research doesn't take so long. There's a laboratory and a comms hub. The lab is for researching the new stuff you're learning about on Galatea. The comms hub is for new buildings, new mech weapons, abilities and armor. Wow, that was a lot of information. Let's talk about the fun stuff like Interplanetary Genocide. As said before, there are some different enemies and they have different resistances, and that's why you have all these awesome weapons. Like there are two big rock monsters. One of them only takes damage from explosions, but the other one doesn't take damage from explosions. So you have to use bullets or laser or plasma. So there is a best weapon per enemy, but I just shoot guns and hope for the best. The planet does keep you on your toes with the different enemy types and the environmental hazards like the sludge and magma, and to a much higher degree later when you start dealing with the acid bomb landmines. And those are just... the landmines are just pure evil, man. But the twin-stick shooter gameplay of the mech is very fun and feels very smooth. There are moments where you feel like a god, and then there are moments where you will say, oh fuck, I might die. I'm starting to think that maybe the aliens are just afraid of technology, which is understandable.
So is it any wonder people are afraid of technology? Technology!
Oh, I almost forgot. Weather events will happen, like a storm to give you lots of wind, a solar flare or something to disable your factory, and a meteor shower to just ruin everything.
A meteor shower is damaging our base.
Oh.
A new tech. The rock rain is over. That was intense. Construction.
That was fun. Story. I have been accused of having a monotone voice. If that's the case, then I really should have been a voice actor for this game, because the voice acting in this game is like a synthetic human trying to emulate emotion.
I'm detecting a lot of movement to the west. We should build up a defensive perimeter around the base.
Let's set up some walls and sentinel towers. Focus our defenses on the western direction. They never changed the beginning of this exercise.
Captain Novak, we all know your renowned scientific background, but your combat performance in the previous simulation was far from spectacular.
Slaughtering indigenous creatures was never my area of expertise.
For the most part, the story is just a lady scientist learning about the planet, something like, wow, this plant produces coal, or we need to learn more about uranium before we harvest it. The mech also talks to you, and I'm pretty sure the mech changed voice actors sometimes, and that was pretty weird. Look, I'm gonna be honest, I was barely paying attention to the story, and it's delivered to you through voice lines. I usually watch a video on my second monitor when I play video games, especially games like this with lots of downtime. I don't like building a base in silence or wandering around in silence, because then I start having those thoughts again. Then I start remembering. So yeah, story is pretty lackluster and the performance is not very good, but hey, it works. Conclusion. Riftbreaker is a very fun game. However, after about 20 hours I started to get a little bored, because the gameplay of the first hour doesn't really change after 20 hours. I mean, sure, you have this little stuff like new weapons, turrets, slight variation in enemies, and the environmental hazards, and maybe more focus on cultivating plants. It's still, for the most part, the same. And this, of course, isn't necessarily bad, because the gameplay loop of Riftbreaker is fun. Both the tower defense aspect and the twin-stick shooter aspect. And I guess it was less being bored and more just, okay, I want to switch it up a little bit. Really, the only part I didn't like and found really tedious was that minesweeper mineral or acid mine scanning. The absolute worst missions in the game are the ones where you have to do exactly that. The worst one was in the acid plains with those acid mines, and I had to look for ore samples. The developers recognized that. They even had the voice line.
We won't be getting any good results by searching for uranium this way. This is tedious.
In those missions, your Mech will tell you that he found an area with a lot of them, so that softens the blow a little bit. The game also slows down a lot during big attacks, but this is probably to make sure your PC doesn't melt. Maybe turning down texture filtering or something might help. This game also reminds me a lot of Factorio, and that's where the title comes from, because it really does feel like Factorio for people with less time. And perhaps less on a certain spectrum. Hostile planet, expanding factory, there are some obvious differences in visuals, and of course you don't have to constantly rethink how you're doing your transport belts. Riftbreaker is way more set it and forget it. I played on normal difficulty, and at a certain point there's just no challenge anymore because you have pretty much unlimited energy and unlimited resources, and your guns become so good it starts being like cutting through butter. Every time I decided to play it, it was like, yeah, I'll play it for an hour, and then suddenly it's 6 hours later. It's a great twin-stick shooter, it's a great tower defense game. The building was very good, and it has a good moral. The moral is basically we should respect nature or like not destroy a planet for its resources. Which like, yeah, I agree. I absolutely recommend Riftbreaker, and I give it a out of. If you have questions about the game or want to talk about it, I'm always active in the comments. There's also the Discord. But I'm not done. Here's a gameplay montage featuring Providence by Geoffplaysguitar. Enjoy. February is gonna be crazy. Dying Light 2, Elden Ring, Total Warhammer 3, Sifu, and a new expansion for Star Wars The Old Republic. But no one cares about that but me. And I'm gonna play all of them and try to make a video about at least most of them. I'm so excited. My birthday is in February and I feel like gaming is giving me a gift this year. It feels good. Hope you also feel good. Have a good rest of the week and subscribe to Geoffplaysguitar. That guy just makes awesome music.